Hello and welcome to GPTV on Tuesday the 4th of April. My name's Philip Kingston.
And I'm Gary Peer.
Gary, we're post-Grand Prix.
We are.
And I believe for the first time in your entire life, your adult life, you went to the Grand Prix.
I did. I went to the Grand Prix and look, it was made for a lot of people, 300,000 people.
That's a lot of people,
attend the
Gary.
Grand Prix. But
That's like one of our auctions, Gary.
It's like one of our auctions on typical Saturday or Sunday, or twilight. But I was made to feel very special because everywhere it said "Welcome to GP," and I thought, with all those 300,000 people, how could they say "Welcome to GP" and single me out? So I thought it was very, very nice.
And how long did it take you to realise that GP was not Gary Peer?
No, isn't it?
You're just realising now.
No, I thought it was. Anyway, I've got to say, Phil, it's quite an experience, Grand Prix. Have you ever been?
No, never been.
I never really was that keen to go, but I went and...
Because you got a free ticket.
I did get a free ticket, you're right. And I was a bit of a babe in the woods there. I felt, like Look, I had no idea what was going on.
Did you go in a suit and tie?
Well, I did actually. I shouldn't have because I didn't need to. And it was pretty hot sitting there directly in the northern sun. It wasn't such a good pick of outfit there, Phil, but I thought, I've been invited. And
You thought you'd dress up?
Thought I'd dress up there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Everybody's just in chinos and polo top, Gary, with that thing hanging around their neck.
Yeah, there's a whole world of people there. And it wasn't as loud as I thought. I think it's all gone a bit less loud because I used to hear it from my house. Don't hear it from the house anymore. We used to hear it from our auctions. We'd be calling bids and we go, just have to wait till they do this next lap. But so it wasn't that loud, even though they gave you earplugs. But I didn't know what's going on. I have to say, I was a bit disappointed in one way.
Yes.
Because it's supposed to be the best drivers in the world.
Yes.
They just kept having accidents, right? So, I thought like I was down in the Coles car park in Carlisle Street, Phil, because the drivers aren't very good there as well.
Be very careful in that car park, because in all of the Coles right around Australia, the Coles in Carlisle Street, drive there at your absolute peril.
At your peril,
or just rent a bomb and go and pick up your groceries.
And in fact, I would have liked to have interviewed the drivers from the Grand Prix and said, look, if you think this is dangerous, come down to Carlisle Street, we'll show you what bad driving looks like. But, they kept on stopping and then they kept having this safety car going around and then they finally got it going and then the cars just came in front of us and they all just flew off the track and there was people in fire and anyway, I couldn't understand. Look, I couldn't really work it out. I didn't really know who was leading. I didn't really know who won. I couldn't work out how many laps there were, why there were that many laps. But got to say, it's a big spectacle.
So more
importantly,
Gary, than watching the cars go round, because can you imagine, by the way, when they're all electric? You won't even know.
Exactly right.
You'll be there.
Exactly right.
Because they go so fast, if you can't hear them, you just won't even see them.
Exactly right.
But more importantly than watching the cars go
I haven't
round,
worked out who won it yet, by the way. Go on.
I think Red Bull won it, didn't they? Red Bull and Max somebody or other.
Okay, Max somebody or other.
But more importantly than watching the cars, how was the food?
Food was not bad, actually.
Yeah.
Well, we went to Carousel, the food there, but
shout out to our friends at the Carousel and to the catering company, which is Food and Desire.
Very good.
I saw a bit of on Instagram the food that Food and Desire was serving, and I thought to myself, I'm not interested in car races, but I could chase those hors d'oeuvres around Albert Park any day.
How many people do you think they had working out there, Food and Desire? Have a guess.
Well, it's a big gig in Melbourne. I think there's the Grand Prix and the Melbourne
Just
Cup.
have a think of the Grand Prix, how many people they had working there.
I'm reckoning that Food and Desire had 200 people.
550 people.
Is that right?
Out there yesterday. Yeah, that was one catering group who were great.
That's a lot of people carrying mini sausage rolls.
550, I know, but the food was great. And look, the atmosphere was great, the vibe was good. And there's people, I understand this is a whole other life. People, they wait all year for it, and Claire in our office is one of them, by the way. She loves it, and she's there the whole time. They live for it, and they're into it, and they've got the hats and the merchandise, and they know the names and the cars and the people. But look, I'm a bit like that with the races, I suppose. So people think I'm mad too.
So the Grand Prix has become a fixture in Melbourne. We've renewed the contract apparently for another 10 years.
Oh, we need it.
But a shout out to Food and Desire again, obviously, because we're trying to get free stuff from Food and Desire. But
exactly right.
if you go to the Grand Prix, the Food and Desire food is incredible.
Yep.
But if you're having a function at home, they also cater at home. I've had a catered function from Food and Desire at home. It's very, very nice.
Had some corporate functions too.
And Asaf, if you're watching this, I think it's time to have GPTV catered. So there's a bit of a shout out to you. Gary, would you go again?
I'd love to go again, just to see what's going on, just to try to understand it. Yeah.
Incredibly, the Grand Prix has become very popular with young women.
Yes.
Now, it used to be...
I think I might have noticed some there. I may have.
Used to be petrol heads sport and crazy young men.
Yeah.
But it's become very popular with young women, Gary. There was a series called
Grid
Drive
Girls.
to Survive.
Well, that's the
which
thing
has
that's
apparently
changed it. That's changed it completely.
Changed the landscape
Exactly right.
and changed the people that watch it. So it's
Yeah.
now a much younger, much
Demographic,
more
yep.
gender
Wide.
gender equal,
Inclusive.
gender inclusive.
Yep.
It is just not the domain of petrol head young men.
Yep, and there are no more Grid Girls, Phil. That's gone.
Grid people now.
There was no Grid people, but anyway, that's a whole other story. But I think Grid Girls offered a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. But anyway, it doesn't really matter, Phil. That's where it's at. One of Melbourne's great things. And when you think about Melbourne, Phil, you think about the tennis and the Grand Prix and the racing and everything we've got in the grand final. This is as much as things are, aren't always run the way they should be, in my view. Not that I'm saying I could do a better job necessarily. It is the events capital of Australia and maybe of the world.
And
just
long made
about.
that last interesting to try and give this some sort of
comedy festival, poker tournament.
Try and give this some property focus. I was reading an article about hotels.
Oh, yeah.
And in Melbourne over the last 2 years, we've opened a huge number of hotels, including the Ritz-Carlton that's just opened its doors last week.
Yeah, but it would have sucked to open a hotel in COVID.
Well, it would have, but apparently they built
time.
and refurbished during that time. And there was an article by the state government saying that now we've got all of these hotels, we need more events, we need more things. So
to fill it up.
The government now is out there looking for things that they can bring to Melbourne so that we can fill the hotels. And hotels are very good for the local economy, Gary. So if you don't like the Grand Prix, just get around it because it's good for Victoria, and even if it does run at a massive loss.
Yeah, and I've got to say, well, I don't know how,
It does,
but I've got to say, it was very well run. So well done, really, really well run. A lot of people around everywhere, well run. But I was very lost and had no idea what happened. Still don't really understand it.
How did you get there? Did you go?
No, I got my daughter to drop me off there, which was good.
Okay.
And just sort of walked back, hopped in a taxi. They held us to ransom.
Gary, if you think the Grand Prix was running hot, so was our Saturday, viewers. I've got to tell you, it's been a long time since we've had a 100% clearance rate, but Saturday we brought home the goods on Saturday.
12 out of 12.
12 out of 12, which is 100%. Now, if we put those towers up, because the industry sold 69%.
69, you're right.
We were 100% on Saturday, but in the interest of transparency, which is the charter of this incredible show. The charter of this incredible show was always to give the facts, Gary, the good, the bad, the indifferent, 100%,
the ugly.
100% on Saturday. Yeah. Having said that, on Sunday, we did have a few pass-ins which brought our results down to 17 out of 22. Ashley, if you're on your calculator now, that's 77%. So the industry was at 69. We're at 77, but we were at 100% on Saturday.
Can we put up the towers, have a bit of Bose music for that?
Yep.
I think we can.
Let's do so,
Towers, Bose music. Thank you very much. Love it when that happens.
Beautiful.
Phil, I want to talk about some sales. We've got nothing coming up this weekend.
No, it's Easter weekend.
It is.
What are you doing for Easter?
Well, what can I say? I'm
going
going to have
to
a little
races,
break. I'm going to nick off a little bit, having a little bit of a break away.
Where are you going?
I'm just going somewhere not too far away from here,
Where?
Off to Bali for a little while.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, off to Bali for a little bit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'm hard to keep up with, but off to Bali. So if anyone's got any Bali recommendations for restaurants, or if you're over there, love to see you there. But anyway.
Clearly, you're seeing part of our bank account that I'm not seeing.
No, I'm just more comfortable with debt than you are.
Because we're not only staying at home, but we will walk from our place to a cafe for breakfast.
Very good.
That's it.
Well, that's the same.
Not even lunch.
So basically, we're doing the same thing.
Breakfast is the cheaper option.
Okay, so it's the same thing. We're both doing the same thing. We're both going to cafes and eating.
I tell you what, viewers, as much as we're equal partners in the business, there's something amiss. If there's any forensic accountants that are watching this show, I would welcome you to come in, spend some time just having a casual
glance
at our books because I'm going to breakfast. Walking to breakfast.
I'm having breakfast.
I'll be walking to breakfast
for
the sumptuous buffet.
Yeah, from the room to the buffet. That's it. Yeah. So we're both the same.
And to the poor hoteliers that are out there watching, when Gary hits a buffet, let me tell you, it's like a giant vacuum It's like a giant vacuum
So
cleaner.
look, let's just have it this way. Between the two of us, we're going to have some nice breakfast over Easter. We're going to have some nice leisure time and get warmed up for the very busy time ahead.
Good
Phil.
on you. Good
Move
on
it along.
you, Mr. Hope. You get
there we go.
barley belly and get bitten by the mosquito.
Thank you very much. And that won't make me much good to come back to, will it?
That's a good point.
Let's talk about what is going on and what happened, Phil, on the weekend. And look, we had some massive numbers at some of our properties. We had this house in Odessa Street with huge numbers, and something else in Spray Street with massive numbers. We had a few places where the numbers just ballooned out and were crazy. But
Yes.
let's talk about the auctions, Phil, because people love to know what's going on in the auction world. Some of these auctions you were involved with. You weren't involved in 24 Devoy Street in Oakley South. David Thompson brought that one home. Good on you, Tomo. Sold for $1,166,000. We'll have a little bit of an image of that one on the screen. Phil, I had great pleasure and great fun auctioning a property in Dramana Avenue in Bentley East. I met with, I couldn't meet with Leon because he had a touch of COVID. So I couldn't meet with
shout
him.
out to Paul Leon Gusenfiddler.
No, he's actually
at home.
fine. He's actually fine. He feels fine, but he tested for it just to be responsible.
Sniffling at home,
he's
got a
having
bit of a headache.
bit of a sniffle and headache, but nothing
He's on the
really
phones
serious.
though. He's sitting in front of
busy.
his laptop,
Yep.
pumping out those calls you'd never know.
Absolutely, you'd never know. But this property, Philip, was very, very popular. More so than we thought. In fact, I think the buyer saw it once, and the underbidder came on the day. So it sort of really heated up very late. But 1 to 1-1 was the range. It sold for $1,222,000. I've got a bit of footage I might show because it was a bit of fun because I said, get ready to congratulate the buyer. Everyone started clapping. So maybe I'll just show this. $1,222,000. Get ready to congratulate our buyer. I think it deserves congratulations. There's still some more show to go on with. $1,222,000.
That was a bit of premature clapping, Gary.
Yeah,
by
a bit
the
of
looks
premature
things.
clapping. You never want to do that too often, but it's good fun at an auction, and well done to the buyers and sellers. Just was one of those auctions that was just a lot of fun. Anyway,
lot
well
of
done.
fun.
By the way, if you are looking at that property or you looked at it, there is another one coming up in the block, an even better, perhaps a little bit more expensive probably, but even better one. So stay tuned.
I hope the buyer of the other one's not watching.
Yeah. Well,
think
they'd have to spend more.
To
They'd
think
have to
that,
spend more.
okay, so
Yeah.
it is going to sell for
It's going to
a higher
sell for,
price.
we think it will, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a little bit bigger and better and more expensive. They might not be able to afford it, but if you want to be in that development, stay tuned and speak to Maureen Mazzaro because she's very involved in the sale of some of it. Phil, 23 Bayview Street, Elsternwick. Well, that was an auction you did. The price is disclosed, sold for $2,260,000 within our range.
Very nice house, and a
Four
shout
bidders.
out to the vendors there who were delightful people.
Yes.
And I had a chat with the owner of the property, or at least the son or the son-in-law of the owner.
Yep.
And I said, "What do you do?" Because the house was beautiful. And he says, "I'm a builder." And I thought, we're always looking for good builders.
Yes.
I said, "Fantastic." He says, "I'm not, I'm getting off the tools." And I thought, okay, he's going to get off the tools and become a site supervisor. No, he's going to become a psychologist.
As you do.
So
Just got to follow that long line of builders that move to psychology.
I
is that
warned
right?
his wife, being married to a psychologist, not so easy, Gary.
Yes. Well, you're not so easy either, that's for sure. In her defence.
Anyway, good point. Good point.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, good on him, yeah.
Shout out to that. That was a great property, and Bayview, we love Bayview, and Elsternwick runs off Glenara Road.
Possibly our hottest auction. We knew it was going to be popular, Philip, but you can't always predict the premium that you're going to get, and that was the case at 25.
You're going to be talking about Frederick Street,
25
aren't you, Gary?
Frederick Street. I did come along and join you there.
You did?
Joel Sir was very aware of the popularity of that home, but certainly the evidence that we had didn't provide us with the conclusion of what the ultimate price was going
Now,
to be.
the price is disclosed or undisclosed, Gary?
It is disclosed, $2,235,000 that sold for, Philip, and it was a hot auction and a popular property. You want to tell us a little bit more
Well,
about
Gary, I arrived at the property and I'd seen it online, of course, but when you see something in the flesh, a beautiful property, the sort of one that hits you in the heart, Gary, not in the head. The heart takes over from the head.
Phil, yep.
And I walked through it and I thought, this should be popular. I said to Joel, we're going to have bidders here. And he said, yeah, no problems. I've got it covered. Got four bidders.
Yep.
Well, we sold that for significantly over the reserve.
And
but
expectation,
having said that, because sometimes the buyers of the properties watch GPTV where we talk about, record price. I think the market's very efficient, Gary.
I think so.
If we see
Efficient.
if we see a property and we think it's great,
Yeah.
the chances are the market will think it's great as well. And it doesn't surprise me that we set a new price point But the good news for that buyer is that everything that we now look at off the back of that is going to be valued at that price.
Well, that's what happens, Phil. These becomes precedent-setting
Benchmarks,
properties.
precedents, Gary.
And I've got to say, the vendor...
You say precedent, I say precedent.
You say tomato, I say tomato, 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 potato, potato. Let's call the whole thing off. Remember that song?
I do.
Yeah, they play that in Cootamundra.
Yep.
Phil, in Frederick Street, I've got to say thanks to the vendor too, because we sold for the vendor.
In Mulgrave Street, Elstonwick.
25 years ago, Phil, when we were young and wet behind the ears.
And as nice as those vendors are, Gary, and I said this to them because in the interests of transparency, I like to say the truth to our vendors. I said to them, they said, "Oh, Philip, you sold for us 25 years ago in Mulgrave Street. We've been here for 25 years now." Normally, an agent would go, "Oh, yeah, so lovely to be here." That's not what I said. I looked at these people right in the eye and said, "You guys have been a bitter disappointment to me and our entire team. Staying in a property for 25 years is not going to send me business class around the world."
No, it's just selfish, Phil.
It's just selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to buy a property, viewers, you need to sell at least once every 5, 6, 7 years.
Let's tell the truth.
My entire cash flow revolves around you moving on from
Let's tell the truth, Phil. You'd be coming to Bali if they would have sold that house. Once or twice more often, if they would have sort of sold every 5 or 10 years, you'd be with us in Bali, wouldn't you?
I know, and I'm not sure how, with them being in that house for 25 years, you are in Bali.
Yeah, well, it's only us. It's only me. That's it. It was enough.
Forensic accountants.
It was enough for us to get to Bali, but
call
not quite
me
enough
on
for you
my
to get
direct
there.
line.
Yeah. Anyway, well done to the vendors there, and interesting. They're moving to Ballarat. It's interesting where people are moving to in their lives. But thank you for the opportunity. I've got to say, Phil, I was inside with them. I was doing a bit of a Scotty Cam, where he goes inside and speaks to them while the auction's going on. And when we got to even the top of the range, they were so delighted. So they were just very emotional and delighted. Well done. Phil, you weren't the auctioneer for this one. I was lucky that I got the gig at 27 Aruna Road. What a great home, by the way, in the Golden Mile of Corporate North. I love the Golden Mile.
Mid-century classic at its absolute best.
Mid-century classic, Philip. The range was in the kind of mid to high threes. It was a very popular home. We can't reveal the price or the buyer or any detail like that. But Phil, it took the auction to get the best result for the vendor. Congratulations to them, and a very popular home, 3 bidders slugging it out. And Phil, interesting where the bidders were coming from. There was locals, there were people coming from Malvern, there was somebody again from another suburb further away. So everyone wants to be in Cornwall North, it looks like, Phil, or a lot of people anyway.
Gary, that's mid-century, as I said, at its best, and I believe the buyers of that home love mid-century homes.
Passionate about it, and the underbidder even just as much, although just by 1 bid less, Phil. 5 Leban Avenue, we can't talk about the price, but that was set a new benchmark and perhaps somewhat of a record for Cornwall North this year, Phil.
Gary, a beautiful...
I don't know if it's been a higher price this year.
I don't believe so, Gary.
Can't remember.
Beautiful home in every conceivable way. To be able to actually design and build something like that takes remarkable vision. So shout out to the owners of that home. It was their home that they put their heart and soul into and reluctantly moved on. I've never seen a home that has got more twists and turns and complexity to that house. And the buyer, shout out to the buyer, is the most delightful man and his family moving into it. This, I think, for him, ticked every box of his dream list.
Which area is the buyer coming from? Can we say that?
Yes, we can, Gary. Coming from Bentley.
From Bentley.
Yep.
Again, I mean, Phil, this is extraordinary, isn't it? We're seeing people coming from all suburbs and that Bentley, Carnegie, Hughesdale. I mean, we've had a few people someone pay over $6 million for a house in Hughesdale.
Why are you
Hughesdale's that way.
Trying to catch a lift or something?
Hughesdale's over there, just behind you.
Okay.
Because I know sometimes you don't have the right sense of direction. I'm just showing you where it is in case you don't.
Okay, so if I'm now watching this GPTV on my iPhone and I'm in Singapore, do you reckon that relates?
Yeah, still over there. Over there, that area.
Good on you.
So Hughesdale. So, people used to long say, oh, we wish we could find a Toorak or Malvern buyer to buy in Cornwall North. Forget about that. They still do come. We still have them. But you've got this whole thing happening through our Bentley and Murrumbina and Carnegie office, Phil. It's exciting, isn't it?
It is.
They're all moving across. And from Bayside to Kilda as well.
Absolutely,
Phil, that was pretty much a wrap. Olympia Avenue has not yet sold, but still one of my absolute favourite streets
beautiful
ever.
Street. As we've got a house in Sidwell Avenue, which I think is just incredible. Sidwell Avenue, if you haven't had a look at that, that's still available. May not be still here by the time we go to air.
Yeah, there's a couple of screaming buys, Phil, and I want to have a little bit of screaming because I think the screaming buy segment is underutilised on GPTV. So let's have a bit of screaming for these screaming buys. So, Phil, we may have missed the moment. We had the screen. We may have missed the moment because maybe Sidwell is one of those screaming buys. We've talked about it, but I think, Phil, that 40 Wilgar Street must be one of those screaming buys. What do you think?
I'm absolutely committed to that, Gary. I think that, first of all, it's a very livable home as it is.
Yes.
But it's also on a really good parcel of land. The home is freestanding. You've got views from the deck, which sits above the garage, which is quite delightful. I think if you went a second story there, subject to council approval, you may well get city skyline views, but Wilgar, just a top spot.
Beautiful property, Philip, screaming buy, as is 202.
So we've got Sidwell, we've got Lempriere, we've got
one more.
We've got Wilgar Street,
Yep.
3 screaming bars, but
And
there is a
last
fourth.
one is 202 at 337 Balaclava Road, Philip. $489,000 will buy this stunning 2-bedroom apartment opposite the park, Caulfield Park, just
Price
near
of a
Campbell Road.
1-bedroom apartment, Gary, but you
price
get
for
two.
one better, you get two. You've got a beautiful terrace with a northwest facing aspect, Philip. That is another one of our screaming buys in a great location.
Screaming bars, it's going to be a segment on GPTV.
Yep.
Editor note, screaming bars, don't let us forget.
Let's have a nice logo and make sure the screen is piercing. Phil, that is a big wrap on GPTV for this.
Are we done, are
post-
we?
This, yes, this
Seemed like a
post
quick
Grand
edition.
Prix, pre-Easter. Well, we babble on a lot, but we haven't got any auctions to review, but we will in the next edition, Phil, because we've got some coming up the weekend after this. So we want to bid you all a wonderful Easter. For those others who are celebrating Passover, a wonderful Passover. Have a great break and get out. Everything's open this weekend for inspection, so plenty of homes open.
And if you're out and about on the weekend and you see me walking to a cafe, think of me as I have, some hard toast with some eggs that are awful.
Sounds like a tough one, yeah.
While Gary consumes the smorgasbord buffet where he will leave nothing unturned as he puts his fingers on all of the stuff on the buffet. I'd hate to go after you. Hate to go after
well, you won't have to. You can stay in
with
Melbourne.
your breath or
You
your
can stay in Melbourne.
your
It's all good.
stale barley
I
breath
love it.
breathing all over. Can you wear a mask when you're at the
I'm not gonna wear a
buffet?
mask. I love it at the buffet, Phil. I'm thinking of you when I'm there. That's a big wrap on GPTV. I'm Gary Peer.
I'm Philip Kingston. Have a great Easter.